We welcome you right now to the big story, which we do at this time every weekday morning here on the Richie B Morning Show. And this is where we get our guests to help us dissect a very topical issue. It's all about current affairs. And what is more current now than a discussion on yesterday's culmination of the People's National Party's 86th annual conference. And the President, Mark Golding, in his speech, he emphasized the party's legacy, vision, and commitment to change. He honored past leaders, highlighting their contributions to Jamaica's development. Golding emphasized the need for change, citing economic and social challenges, and he reaffirmed the PNP's principles of equality, justice, and integrity. Good morning, Kevin O'brein Chung. Are you there?
Morning, Richie.
Thank you for joining me again, Kevin. And we also welcome to this discussion Lloyd B. Smith. Mr. Smith, are you there? Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I'm very much here. And good morning, Kevin.
Lloyd.
Thank you both. Thank you both appearing in your capacities as political analysts. Lloyd, if you don't mind, let me start with you. What are your impressions of the 86th annual conference of the People's National Party, which culminated yesterday?
Well, for starters, one must put it within a context. And the context is that the major political parties at their conference, they go there with specific objectives, and perhaps one of the most outstanding one would be to galvanize its supporters to get them election ready, as in this case, we have an impending election, to motivate, to inspire, and to get them excited. And from all indications, that was achieved. The usual massive crowd was there. The rhetoric, the various aspects of the conference that give us color and so on. And of course, this particular conference had some peculiar developments. We saw, for example, where Vibes Cartel made an appearance. There was also the presence of the Maroon Chief. And then there was also, I gather, we had some other, Popcorn was there, another dancehall icon. And, L.A. Lewis, who is quite a colorful character, added some amount of his own color to the conference. So from that perspective, I would say that it was a successful conference. Now, to the meat of the matter, it also gives the party a platform to present to the Jamaican people its vision of a Jamaica that will benefit the majority of its citizens. Mark Golding delivered quite a speech in this regard. There were some very good moments. There were some good plans, I thought, especially in relation to education. And I was pleased to see that agriculture was given some amount of highlight, because coming out of Beryl, we are more even now aware of the fact that Jamaica needs to have food security. And we live in a country where we depend very heavily on our small farmers, and they must be given pride of place. So I was happy that that was done. Quite briefly, I think overall his presentation was good. My only concern, quite frankly, was that there was not sufficient focus on the economy in terms of how we deal, for example, with inflation, or we deal with certain realities out there, to ensure that the cost of living index, in fact, does go down. And we have to be careful that we don't have a scenario where we run with it. In other words, we spend more than we earn. And that remains a gray area for me.
All right. Thank you, Lloyd. I'd like to bring Kevin in now. And Kevin, let's start with the Mr. Golding's speech. Did it rally? Did you think it rallied support and generated momentum? The whole thing of him harping on the history and legacy of the party in shaping the future direction, was that a wise thing to do? And how will he finance a lot of the plans and so on that he basically announced? What are your thoughts on all of those matters?
Mr. Golding gave a pretty good speech in my view, but there's one element we have to mention is Vybz Cartel.
Okay.
His appearance, if you look on social media, was the most controversial element of the entire day. And, Vybz Cartel represents a lot of different things to different people. He's going to be quite a litmus test, I believe, for the PNP, to what type of party they are presenting to the people of Jamaica. And a lot will determine on how people view Vybz Cartel. He's perhaps the most controversial musical figure in the history of Jamaica, cultural figure probably. We know he's a musical genius and people like him, but we know that he was jailed for murder. And the former commissioner has had a lot to say about Vybz Cartel and murders. And the current PNP General Secretary, Peter Bunting, has had quite a lot to say about it. So bringing Vybz Cartel there, the PNP was making a statement. What type of statement they're making, we shall see. There's going to be a lot of conversation about it. And the question in many people's minds, how does the overall Jamaica feel about Mr. Cartel? Certain elements are very much in favor, certain elements are not in favor. And what does it say about the PNP having Mr. Cartel there? We shall hear the conversation. Mr. Golding's speech was a pretty good speech, I thought. He started off quite well, a nice touch, having his son introduce him. And then he talked about his father, how much his father, Sir John Golding did so much for when they had the polio epidemic and another elements for the health of Jamaicans. And it's a good story that he hasn't told enough, I believe. And then he talked about his family, his wife, and you saw them embracing the story about how they met. And it's, the theme of his speech at the beginning and throughout was all Jamaicans are equal. No matter your color, your class, your creed, all that kind of stuff. And Mr. Golding's family is an excellent representation of our motto, out of many one people. His parents are British, he came here, so he's a rich man, his father, and he married a working class black Jamaican girl, a woman, and they're mixed children, and they're an excellent example of out of many. And I suspect many of the ambassadors and stuff that came there would be bemused. It's a 90% black country. This white man as a leader, people are cheering, and the racial element was kind of irrelevant. Mm-hmm. And we have to admire Jamaica, that element of Jamaica, that we have managed to put. Racism is still an element to many people, but it's hardly the number one thing as in many countries. We don't even notice it, and that is saying something. But his speech was, as I said, quite good in my view. He talked about things like the crime. One of the things that jumped out, he said, I'm willing to support detention for known violence producers, which many policemen have said long ago, that is the key to cutting crime in Jamaica. That most of the murders are committed by serial murderers. We get these people out of circulation, we can build cases and put them away, and the murder rate will plummet. So I think that is one thing Mr. Golding should be held to by everybody, civil society. You have agreed to this, let us implement it. Prime Minister, come on, let's get this rolling, get the crime. It's dropping, we need it to drop further. He talked about perhaps the second most critical issue to crime in Jamaica, and a contributing issue, which is the early childhood education. A lot of the crime comes from boys who grow to be men, who just don't have a good early circumstances, and they need early intervention. And then he talked about the economy, the blue economy. We have a well-located island near the Panama Canal and all that, and then the agricultural modernization. A lot of the promises he made, as politicians will do, and as Lloyd said, And the question is, yes, it all sounds great. We all want these things to happen. Can we afford them? So a lot of positives. The negatives of Mr. Golding, he's attacking a media house again. I don't like that at all. A prime minister in waiting, opposition leader, and a prime minister, but they should never be attacking media. Everybody is going to have a different viewpoint, different things, which is the glory of having a free press. He has this habit of attacking a certain media house, and then he's attacked the Jamaica Observer the other day. I would say, Mr. Golding, stop this. It's dangerous. You will give a very good speech in other ways, but this is a negative. And the other negative was bringing up the Integrity Commission's finding the illicit six. By doing so, he's undermining the authority of the Integrity Commission. People are going to say he must have a special telephone connection there that he's able to find out what's happening, or he's lying. And it just undermines integrity. So I would have given Mr. Golding about a 8.5 for the introduction and the substance. So I have to subtract for those negatives. I give him about a 7.5. But it's a very good speech, and I think anybody listening to it would say, yeah, he has grown in confidence. No more that fake pastor that turns off a lot of people. And he was himself. He was confident, full of energy, and give a good vibe overall, except for the two negatives that I mentioned.
All right. Thank you for that, Kevin. I want to go back to this Vibes Cartel matter with Lloyd B. Smith. And by the way, Lloyd, if there's something that Kevin said that you'd like to comment on, then you can do so. But my question really has to do with the view that Vibes Cartel's endorsement could very well help the PNP secure youth votes. Do you subscribe to that view, one? And two, was it an error of judgment to have him appear on the stage?
Well, that is going to come out in the wash eventually, At this point in time, it has become a political phenomenon because never in the history of Jamaican politics as any reggae superstar or dancehall superstar, has risen to that level where the person becomes a platform entity and is expected to create a certain vibe, no pun intended. So it seems to me that it's a gamble that the PNP is taking. I suspect that Vibes Cartel's lawyer, who is also a supporter of the PNP, may have helped to persuade him to take that chance and go there and be identified with one political party. The fact, though, is that the culture of Jamaica in terms of music has always been one of the underbellies of Jamaican politics. We can go as far back as Better Must Come with Michael Manley in the 70s and come right down. Music has always played a pivotal role in politics. Bob Marley, in his own way, did what we still regard as a tremendous symbolic act when he held both the hands of Michael Manley and Edward Seaga at the Peace Concert, which remains one of the most iconic representations of how music can unite us and get rid of bad vibes. Again, no pun intended. But overall, I would say the jury is out at this stage. There's no question that Vibes Cartel, based on what we have seen anecdotally, is extremely popular, especially among the youths in the lower echelons of the society. He has this big concert coming up at the National Stadium on New Year's Eve, and it has already, we gather that some sections have already been sold out. So he does have a tremendous following, and it sort of reminds me of Taylor Swift endorsing the Democratic Party, although Taylor Swift doesn't have any criminal record. And again, I don't know if it's a case of Barabbas versus Jesus Christ, but the fact is that we live in a society at this moment where the dancehall culture is extremely influential, and contrary to some views, it is not only downtown that the dancehall has infiltrated, it has also infiltrated uptown. and so where the young persons are concerned. A little thing there, though, a lot of these youngsters don't vote. They are not inclined to vote. And so although they may like Cartel and follow him, it doesn't necessarily mean that this likeness will translate into the ballot box on election day. So as I said, the jury is out. I suspect in subsequent pollings, we will see whether or not the PNP would have got a bounce going forward in terms of the Vibes Cartel factor.
Okay, time is moving so quickly. I can't believe it's already 22 minutes after 7 o'clock. Kevin, I want to get one more question into you, though. What overall implications do you think this conference might have for the PNP's electoral prospects? And in your answer, you might want to comment on the Porsche initiative, if you will, that Mark Golding announced.
Well, Lloyd talked about Cartel getting the youth vote out. But Cartel is a very double-edged sword, There's no doubt he's a musical genius, unquestionably. No artist has ever dominated the Jamaican music for so long. It's his criminal record. That's a double-edged sword. You can be a great musician, but he was convicted for murder. He was let out, but many feel it's a technicality. And while he may stir up a lot of positive passion among the youth, he might stir up a lot of negative passion among older folks. In the churches, we talked about Jamaica, that kind of a dual country, There's no doubt dancehall runs the country at one level, but on another level, churches run the country. Christianity, whereas heavily Christian country, and these heavily Christian people are conservatives, and Vibes Cartel represents a lot that they don't like. And so they may gain some youth vote, they might lose the older vote. And, you're kind of seeing two kind of parties clarifying, the PNP is embracing Cartel and everything he represents for good and bad. And the JLP could be said to be representing the other side. It's like, that's why I said he's very much a litmus test for many, many Jamaicans. And it is a phenomenon that one person could, I won't say run the country, but he dominates a lot of debates. The man was in jail for so long, 10 years, and still was the most popular musician for 10 years. And even now, last night he was a guest on Rising Star. Did you tell the show on TV?
Yes.
So he's other than the jury out, what does it represent? The Porsche initiative, I don't know. It came across as a bit of gimmicky. When you name something with Portia, it came across as a bit gimmicky. You lose what it's actually meaning in the gimmicky of a name. That's what I thought. And so I don't know if many people would be impressed by that. We've heard many such initiatives over the years. And again, the question is always, you can promise anything as a politician. The question is, can we afford it and how are you going to pay for it? And this is where the PNP has a bit of a weakness. In the past, we've seen run with it many times. They spend money on the people, but when they pay for it, they have to build up the debt. It went to 150%. It's down to 70% now. And most Jamaicans, I think, would remember the days of high inflation and having no money for investments. You couldn't fix the roads, couldn't do this, couldn't do that. We've brought it down a lot, and we can do a lot. Look on the buses for the children now, for the JUTC system. All this couldn't be done before because we had spent so much. Now we can afford a lot of stuff because we've cut the debt. Do we want to go back there? We can't afford a lot of stuff. And this is the challenge for Mr. Golding to show we can do this while, and he said it himself, maintaining macroeconomic stability is a critical component.
Yes.
So he has to square the circle, as they say. I can give you all this, but I'm not going to increase the deficit. Show us how you're going to do that.
Questions, and many questions still left unanswered. Lloyd B, I want to close out with you to get your comment on the implications of the conference as far as the PNP's electoral prospects are concerned. And I'd also like to get from you whether or not you thought it was a good idea in the first instance to name an initiative like was announced, the Porsche initiative. What are your thoughts?
Well, if I may take the latter first, there's a tendency for both political parties to come up with these monikers. More recently, we have seen the JLP coming with Spark, and so on and so forth. It's part of the gimmickry, I find, of our politics. And as Kevin said, it may come across as being somewhat flippant. The fact, though, that Portia is a name that rings, well, I can't say a bell, but it does resound with a lot of the people in the working class, especially the women. And so I suspect that it is a way of not just outlining a new policy initiative should it become government, but it is a way of seeking to solidify the Portia factor, which it was good that the PNP did what it did, because there was a certain element in the party up till recently that felt that Portia was not dealt with properly when she decided to leave office. In fact, there was a view that she was forced out because of her health issues and so on. And that residual factor was very much there. And I think this move by Mark Golding has helped to give him a greater level of being a unifying force in the party. And I think it must be said that one of the things that came out of the conference yesterday, for the first time, I think, we have seen in a long time a unified People's National Party. Peter Phillips was there giving a speech and all that. So the one PNP and the risers, it seems as if that is now part of the past history of the party. And that is good in terms of the optics. The first part of your question, if you could repeat it very quickly.
Just to give you 30 seconds to tell me what you think are the implications of this conference in terms of the PNP's electoral prospects. In 30 seconds, if you will.
Well, I think they will certainly get a bounce out of it. I don't know how much it will be. But bearing in mind that the polls up till now have been showing that the PNP is on the ascendancy, this can't do any hurt to them. It will more than likely be a positive way forward for them going forward in terms of election victory.
Lloyd B. Smith and Kevin O'brein Chung, I couldn't ask for more. It's as good as it gets. Thank you both very much and have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right, take care. All the best. All the best, gentlemen. Those are two well-known stalwart political analysts giving their views on the PNP's 86th annual conference that ended yesterday evening inside of the National Arena, Kingston.
And supported by prayer. Comrades, it is up to all of us now. Walk every hill and valley, every nook and cranny, every street and lane, bring in the 90 and 9, and then go for the missing one. Listen to the people's voices and let them hear the trumpet sounding, the mighty refrain from Niggeril Point to Moran Point and back. Time home, and we choose change. Power to the people, comrades. Power to the people. Power to the people. One love, and God bless Jamaica. Land we love.
There you have it, Mark Golding there yesterday wrapping up his speech at the conference there at the National Arena. 5 years ago, 3 years ago, even a year ago, I might not have envisioned Mark Golding speaking like that, and his delivery has definitely improved tremendously. And that was a whole lot of energy and a big punch that he packed yesterday in his presentation.